Hey guys, welcome to another episode of LFA's Shop. This week we have to get rid of a car, and I didn't really want to get rid of it this soon, but my hand has been forced, so let's get into it. So in this episode, I'm going to get the Toyota Sora that I bought a couple of months ago and bring it into the shed, strip the subframes out of it, make up some jigs, and then get it off to scrap. So you might be wondering why I want to get this thing off to scrap. Now I can't tell you that exact reason right this second, but what I can tell you is that it needs to go to make room, and it's one of the easiest things to get rid of because it's only a couple of days work to get these subframe jigs knocked out. Now I want to use these subframes in a future project, which you'll also see shortly, but I need a jig to get rid of the shell. So I'm going to take these subframes out, make the jigs, and then I know exactly where all of the mounts are that were on the body, to when I go to recreate them on another car, then I can bolt the subframes straight in once the jigs have been used. So hopefully that makes sense. Now I know the videos lately have been a bit irregular compared to my normal every week schedule. Now that will be explained shortly as well. The reason is the same reason that this Sora has to go. So you'll find out soon. I don't really want to hold it back, but we need to get some stuff done, and sometimes they take 2 weeks instead of 1 week, and I just got to get it done. So sorry for the irregular uploads. Hopefully we'll get back to normal soon. But before we do that, if you could jump down in the description, jump onto the LFA's Shop merch site and grab yourself a t-shirt. That'd be great. All of the proceeds from those things help keeping this place running, and it just helps me a whole lot. So appreciate if you do decide to pick one up. Let's get into ripping this Sora apart. All right, it's finally time. So I'm going to put this Toyota Sora up on the hoist. Now this thing owes me absolutely zero right this second, but it's still a complete car visually. So whether I keep the shell or sell it, I'm trying to sell it at the moment, but I haven't had any interest, or I just rip some parts off, sell some parts or whatever. It's all profit from here. So I want the subframes out of this thing. So I've cleared off path to the hoist. I'm ignoring that pile of stuff. And I'm going to pull these subframes out and make some jigs. Getting non-rolling stuff, or non-running stuff I should say, onto this hoist is such a pain. At least this thing's, and I can just use the forklift. So I'm going to square it up, I'll get it in the air, and then I can take off the wheels and stuff and have a play with the suspension stuff. See how far we can get today. I forgot there was a transmission in this thing, so I'll rip that out. And I'm going to pull the exhaust off and the tail shaft out, and then I can pull the front or rear subframe. I think I'll probably start at the front, I guess. So there we go. But the exhaust, I'll either unbolt it or I'll just drop it in one piece. We'll see how we go. So I have unbolted all the little brackets and such. Got the exhaust out of here, got the tail shaft out, handbrake cables, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much ready to drop out. But before I do that, I'm going to take the front shocks out for now and put it on the ground and see how low this thing will get with before it all binds up, because that'll be important later. And then I'll do the same at the back, and then I can drop the subframes out. I'll quickly rip this strut out and load it back down onto a milk crate. So it's nice and low, and this tyre is actually hitting the underside of the main structure on the front. And then if you come around to the front, you can see the subframe is actually pretty much level with the bottom of the tyre, give or take. So that means that it will be subframe on the ground with these tyres on it, if that bar wasn't in the way. So I'm going to climb in here and see how much strut we have left, hopefully like an inch or so, and then we know everything's good and we'll do what I want. I am incredibly silly. There's no strut in there, obviously. I'll jack it back up, I'll take the tyre off, I'll attach all this in a different direction and see if it can go even lower. This is incredibly sketchy, but that's about an inch, inch and a half lower than it was with the tyre on it, so we know that it's definitely going to be on the floor with that size tyre, which is what we want. So that's probably around about the size I want to use. I'm not 100% sure yet. See when we get the other car, but for now that's good for me. Another remeasure, that's 40mm lower than with the tyre on it, so plenty of room, good to go. So I'll pull the other side out and get this front subframe out of the car. So we're down on the ground, I've ripped the sway bar out. I'm about to take the cross member out. So I've got all the wheels off, struts are undone. That one's still in obviously. So I need to undo about 6 or 8 bolts, and then this thing should stay on the milk crate. So we've got the front out, nice and easy. So I need to remove these as well, but I need to get to the top. So I know that these are the 3 bolts I need to pick up on, and then these 2, and then these sway bar ones. So I can copy all of those and their locations now that all that stuff's out. So I'll do that later. And I also want to try and copy where the strut tower is. Not that it's super important on this setup because it is double A-arm, but it will help. So I'm moving on to the back. I've got the trans jack under here. I've got 2 big bolts at the front just up in here, and then 4 on the back on either side, and then the 2 for the sway bar. So I'll take the shock bolts out first, and then drop the subframe, and then I'll lower the car, and then take the struts out from the boot. So it's a bit more of a different process, but same sort of thing. Should come out pretty easily, hopefully. So we got the rear subframe out. Pretty much fell out, which is awesome. You got 2 sway bar bolts either side. You got your 4 rear subframe bolts, and you got your front 1 subframe bolt. So that's what I need to pick up on. And then the front, I need to pick those ones up as well. And then I need to remove these guys. So I'm going to go down and try and put this thing on this trolley, and then we should be good to go for later. We are back on the ground. It's on a trolley now. Rear subframe is in the air, so I'll grab this with a forklift, put it aside, and then I can drag this thing out, clean the floor because I've made a hell of a mess, and then I can start copying mounts. So I spent a couple of hours and just cut up a few bars, drilled a few holes. So I'm picking up on all of the suspension points up the front here. So you got the sway bar mounts here, you got the 2 crossmember bolts there, and then you've got 3 for the rear section of the crossmember. So they're all good to go. I need to tack this all together, and I can unbolt it, put it aside, and then the front is done. I still need to do the strut towers. I forgot about that bit. So I need to do the strut towers as well, and then we'll be all sorted. So I've just gone through and welded a bunch of this stuff. So I'm going to unbolt it now, and then weld anything else that needs to be welded. So I spoke to my mate that's an engineer the other day, and he actually said not to worry about the strut towers too much because we can put the top within reason wherever we need to. However, I thought I'd make a jig with those anyway because I can use the same jig to pick up on the angle of the frame rail. So these are in the center section, nice and flat. The front actually steps up and the back actually steps down, but the middle section where these are is nice and flat. So I think we can get away with using that for the middle bolt holes and then use the other jig to square everything else up. So should be good to go. I did just realize that I might not be able to get this out of here because it's actually like that rod is tilted in a little bit and this one is tilted in a little bit. I might have to cut this thing in half, put some bolts and some bar across the middle for a bit of reference so that I can get everything in the right spot. But we're pretty much there with that one. The other one looks ridiculous out of the car behind the pile of scrap. So this is from the bottom looking up, and this is the back up the top here. So it would be this way, front of the car over there, back of the car here. So you got 3 bolts on the back, 2 in the middle, and 3 up front. I managed to get that out in one piece, so it must have a little bit of flex in it. Now I managed to mark the bolt holes like that. This side I got one and not the other. There was a big mess here, I just wiped it up. So I'm gonna have to measure and do the back one, I guess. Should be a bit of a pain, but that's at least a start. So I think the front is completely done now. So I'm gonna try and turn this thing around so I can work in at this end on the back. Got it back up on the hoist, so now I can slide underneath, start making brackets. But I realized it's probably gonna be easier to make these brackets, that one and this one, off the car. So I'll make some little sections, drill these out, and then I can bolt these to the car, or the brackets to the car. And then I just need to make a front pickup point and join them all together. Okay, it's a bit after midnight, so I finally turned this up. So this end is aluminium. The inside bore is the same as this guy, and then the other end is steel, so I can weld to it. And then the idea is that pushes on there nicely, and then I can weld a tube from here to the other side and get my reference. And then the back guys bolted up. I need to remember to tack weld those nuts to there because I need that spacing. And then these guys are all bolted up. nice and flat, and same on this side. So when I get a bit more time, or next time, I'll come out and make all the framework, get all that situated. It's a new morning underneath the saw here, so we've got those little adapters that I made the other day, so they fit on there really nicely. This piece is aluminium, this piece is steel. So now I need to pick up on those 2 points, and then the points back here to make some framework. So I'll just cut up some steel, let's get this tacked in, and I'll get a new frame shortly. And then I need to work out what I'm doing with these struts. So that's picking up on all of the points. So these ones are a little bit sketch, so I might get a piece of bar and just go up there. This is nice and flat, this is nice and flat. Those ones are all good to go. So I'll weld all this together, and then I need to work out what I'm doing with the struts, because I'd like to have the angle. Whether I'm going to use it or not is a different question, but I'd like to be able to have reference of where the angle was. So I'll work out what I'm doing with that as well. So I've welded all of this stuff together, which is going well. I've then taken the strut out, I've taken the fuel tank out, the boot's all clear. Then I grabbed these little rings off the top of the struts, welded some bolts to them. They're going to go in there like that, and I just need to run a piece of steel from where my finger is down to this guy here, and that'll hold everything in place. And I can drop this out, put it over there with the rest of the jigs, and then take a few more bits out of this car, and I can go on the trailer and go in the bin. Okay, got the tops welded in, got a bar in there, and everything else is all tacked together. So this probably needs a bit more welding when it gets unbolted, but I'll have a look when it gets unbolted. And hopefully nothing moves, and we should be sweet. These holes are all exactly where they are on the car. I've only drilled them to the size of the bolts. I haven't drilled anything oversized, which has been a bit of a process, but we got there. However, with the original subframes, the holes are actually bigger, so there should be a little bit of allowance for discrepancies, but I shouldn't have any off of what the body has anyway. So hopefully this all goes well. I'll unbolt this, get it on the ground, and then this saw needs a few things taken off of it, and it can go away. So with the frame out, I need to make something that looks like this later on, but I'm going to ignore it for now, but I'll take a good video. So that's what we need to make. I have the measurements. Let's strip the last few bits and get this thing out of here. I forgot to film for a little bit and I popped a window. So I'd like to go through and take the lights off and the front bumper off. I forgot before I put it on the trailer, but I can take those off now anyway, that's fine. Everything else will be going in the bin. So I was going to use this thing for something down the road, but plans have changed. I will update you in a few weeks what's going on, but this thing has to go. So that's the end of the Sora. Okay, so that is all. The Sora has made it onto the trailer, and just before I was about to scrap it, it's still actually currently outside. Someone messaged me and asked for a few bits, so he's going to come in the next day or two and pick some pieces off of that, and then the whole thing's going to scrap. So that is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you're excited for the new project with Sora subframes, and we'll see you next week.